Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Gail Callaghan. Hello. I am the cartoonist behind the 5th through 8th Babysitters Club graphic novel adaptations. Number 8, Logan Likes Marianne, is actually coming out September 1st, which is next Tuesday somehow.
Oh,
wow. I'm coming to you live from my home studio in Pleasantville, New York, where I make all of my comics and hang out with my beloved husband, Echo, and 2 pet rabbits. It is 76 degrees and drizzly. So the Babysitters Club began as a series of prose books written by Anne M. Martin, written way back in the late 1980s when I was born. They continued for over a decade, and there ended up being over 200 books. It has since been adapted for television, a feature film, graphic novels by Raina Telgemeier, myself, Katie Farina on the Little Sister series, and a bunch of amazing artists to come, and most recently as a Netflix series, which is so good, hilarious, and fun. I'm really, really, really excited to be here today with some of the cast of the Babysitters Club Netflix adaptation: Momonis Hamada, Sochi Gomez, Malia Baker, Shay Rudolph, and Sophie Grace. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hi, I'm amazing.
Good, how are you?
Doing well, hanging in there. So today we're going to have some fun and talk about our experiences with the books, the show, anything else we can think of, and then we'll answer some audience questions. So wherever you're watching from, if you think of a question, just drop it in the chat and hopefully we'll get a chance to get around to it, okay? So let's get started. When I was a kid, I absolutely loved to read. I went to the school library almost every day. I'd check stuff out in the morning, in the afternoon, during lunch sometimes. I was a very, very, very cool kid. But I still remember one day specifically when the librarian stopped me in my tracks as I walked into the library. They said, "Hey, listen, you're the 5th person in today, so we're going to do something cool. We're going to give you your very own book to keep." And they handed me this brown paper wrapped book, and I opened it up, and it was my very first Babysitters Club book, Marianne and the Secret in the Attic. So I went home, I read the whole thing. I had to go back and check out all the rest, and that's how they get you. I've been hooked ever since. But that was like 20 years ago, so I'm really, really curious to know, how did you all first discover the books, and what was that experience like? Was there anything in them that surprised you or really resonated with you?
Sorry, my dog would like to say hello as well, but I first came across the books when my oldest sister introduced them to my other older sister and I, and we bonded over them, and it was something that we all would like read together, and we could talk about it because I felt so cool reading the same books as my older sisters, so I was totally obsessed with them. And I mean, it's just kind of insane and totally ironic that now I'm a part of a show that's introducing something of my childhood to more childhood. So it's just really cool.
Mm-hmm. My mom had always referred to herself as being a Dawn, and of course I didn't grow up in a generation that was introduced to Babysitters Club books, so I was super confused, and I did some research, and I discovered them, and I fell in love right away. I actually discovered a box in our barn, and I felt so lucky because they were some of my mom's original books. So I read them and I absolutely loved them. And it's totally crazy that the character that I related to so much is now the person I'm portraying.
I was introduced to the books in elementary school at my school's plastic book fair. And instead of just buying like a chocolate calculator or a Smensel, if you guys remember those, I was looking in the book section because they had some amazing choices. And I found the BSC graphic novels, some of the first ones. And graphic novels were like very in at the time, so I was super excited to see those. And I instantly fell in love with them. They were just so amazing. And yeah, it's really awesome to be a part of this show now.
Well, same with me. I was introduced to them in elementary school, and I just fell in love with them. My teacher at the time was very into books and making sure that like we all had the right books for like ourselves, and all of my friends from elementary school were messaging me saying how cool it was because they remember reading the books with me at lunch, and now it's crazy to be in the Babysitters Club.
For me, it was a different experience. Y'all had read them when you guys were in elementary school. I didn't. But when Netflix first announced that they were going to be, kind of like starting out casting for the Babysitters Club, my mom was like, okay, you are going to be a part of this. You are going to be Dawn. And so I basically just started getting books off eBay, and I started reading them, and then I was just kind of hoping that I would get an audition. And then it turns out they were going to be turning one of the characters to a Latina. And I was like, okay, well, I really hope that's Dawn, because that is overall my favorite so far. And it ended up being her. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, let's just really hope it's me. And then boom, it's me.
That's wonderful. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Yeah, I just really love, like you mentioned, Sophie, just the way that we get to connect generation across generation over this is so wonderful, honestly. Like, I love getting to talk to people your age, people like my parents' age, and all of us get to have this one special connection. And it's amazing that you get to continue bringing that forward. So for my next question, speaking of connections, which Babysitters Club character is your favorite, and who do you actually feel most like?
That's hard. Okay.
That is a trick question.
Yes. So for me, I think we all really looked up to Claudia. Let's be honest here. She is super cool. I mean, the clothes, the passions, the art. So I think I looked up to Claudia the most, although I looked up to all of these girls so much. But I think the person that I most related to was Marianne, and still is. I definitely think one of the greatest things about the Babysitters Club is that you can relate to at least one of these girls and see yourself through all the situations that they go through. So I could definitely see myself in every one of these characters, but Marianne was the core of it.
Yeah, just like Malia mentioned, there is someone that everyone can relate to, no matter like what you look like or what you're interested in, anything really. And they're just such personable characters. I mean, obviously they're people, but they're just so relatable and real. So it was really cool because when I was growing up, I always said that I was such a Kristy, because I was always like, if we were to start a club, my friends and I would probably be the president of it. Like, I was just that kind of person. But as I've grown up, I mean, still, like Malia said, you have a core, but then my core will always be Kristy, but I'm also very Claudia and Dawn in my interests and fashion sense and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing. Like, I know a lot of us have talked about this in plenty of interviews, but we always mention multiple girls because it's so hard to just choose one, because they all have incredible personality traits. Like, it's impossible to just choose one person that you're part of, because like all of these girls are so relatable, like we've said. And so like I definitely feel like a really good mix of Stacey and Dawn. Like, I'm literally holding crystals right now, like I have plants in the background, like I'm such a Dawn. And then also Stacey like influences my fashion sense, and I think just all of the girls, you can look up to them in so many amazing ways, and it's really cool to be able to portray them on screen and have younger kids look up to us now as these characters.
When I was reading these books, I was more of a Marianne mixed with kind of like Claudia. I was more shy, but now as I've gotten older, I've seen myself kind of like almost switch to more of like a Claudia and a Stacey in a way. But it's so cool how like you can grow up with these girls, and like really even like all throughout your life you can like connect to at least one of the girls.
I'm like an absolute Dawn. I am like basically a Dawn. I probably have my silliness from Logan, but kind of it.
Claudia here, I mean, we all are artists, and we all have a little creativity inside of us.
I wish I could make those good sculptures, though.
Me too.
Yeah. So this is kind of a tie-in. since each of the books is from a different perspective, when I was adapting the graphic novels, I had to do a bit of work to get into each character's head, which was really interesting for me because, kind of like you, I felt like aspirationally Claudia, but internally Marianne in a lot of ways. And Stacey was someone who, when I was growing up, I didn't feel like I could identify with as much because she seemed so outgoing, so fashionable, so confident, like with romance. But as I actually, read through her book again as a grown-up and thought about like how I could connect with her, I started to realize, no, I relate to and admire her in a lot of different ways. Like she might project this outward confidence, but has a lot of her own internal struggles, worries, but also finds the ways to stand up for her friends and herself. So the question is, while you were getting to know each of your characters, were there any layers there you weren't expecting? What about them were you excited to bring to the screen?
I went through pretty much that same thing with relating to Stacey. Like,
Yeah.
Wow, she is like really popular, super outgoing, like seems like a really cool person. Like, I think I might be a little bit intimidated of her if I saw her in person. Like, she seems pretty cool. But then once you actually get to read some more of the later books, and once I got to read the script and actually like be her every single day, I was like, wait, I actually relate to her a lot. Like, she's super loving. She cares about her friends so incredibly much, like way more than boys or clothes or popularity. And she's like super intelligent and responsible and all of these amazing traits that I super duper look up to. And yeah, I think that was like the best way to get to know Stacey, was just to like totally just be her every day.
I like how we're all just looking. It's hard on Zoom sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. Go ahead.
Okay. So Marianne, she is super vulnerable and sensitive, and I feel like I had to take that a lot while acting as her. I learned that Marianne, she's always on the verge of tears. Everything touches her at her heart, and that was a little tricky to do, but I managed. And I also learned that she has a lot of inner dialogue. Like sometimes you can see the inner dialogue while I'm acting and while she's just thinking, and you can see her thoughts sometimes. And she's funny without even knowing that she is. And I was really happy and I thought it was really fun to bring that to the screen.
Yeah, kind of like how Malia was saying, Kristy, complete polar opposite of Marianne, but also like similar in a sense of on paper, she can totally be like, if you read her in a certain way, she can totally be mean. And that's not who she is at heart, but sometimes she gets a little ahead of herself. And this sounds a little silly, but I was really working very hard on not letting her be mean, because I feel like it's so easy when you just look at a strong, straightforward woman to think, wow, she's mean. She thinks she's better than everyone. No, she just has her ideas. She's not afraid to express them. And sometimes she can come off a little headstrong, but she really is the most sweetest, sensitive person at heart. But she really likes to put up this tough front of absolutely not. I have no emotions. But I think even over the season, her character growth was really cool to portray, because she became, like, I feel like even Marianne taught her, like, it's okay to be sensitive. Everyone has emotions. And I think that was just really cool to be able to play someone and kind of like mature with them.
Ramona?
I was gonna say, obviously Claudia's kind of seen as this like popular, very like free-spirited person, and she definitely is. She has like the most amazing fashion sense, which is so fun to bring to screen, but also having like her family side and how like you can never really judge a book by its cover because you never know what's going on. And like Sophie said, it was so cool to really grow with these characters as the series went on, because we actually filmed this episode by episode for most of the part. So I think you could really see the growth in our friendship in real life and with our characters, and that really resonated on screen, which was so cool, and I think the audience really sees it as well.
I know I definitely did.
Well, thank you. We all worked very hard on that.
I know for me, it was pretty hard because I didn't know how much of an activist Dawn really was. Because in the first book, the first like 10 books that I read, she wasn't much of an activist. And so when I got the script for the episodes, I was definitely like, oh my gosh, okay, well, this is a lot like, Dawn Seeks the Planet. So, and I had read that book and I'd seen how a lot of people, it was not really their favorite book. And so I realized that a lot of people were kind of annoyed with how much of an activist she was. And so I really paid attention to that, and I tried my best to make sure that everything I said and everything that was going through my brain when I was acting was filled with intentions of I'm doing this because I want to help, and just basically filled with positivity because I didn't want anybody thinking that I was like annoying or anything, because I knew some people did think that with the book. So it was a bit of a challenge.
I believe it. Well, I feel like your intentions definitely came across, because I absolutely loved like the entire camp arc, which brings, as well as the rest of it, which brings me to, did you all have a favorite episode to work on or watch?
Mine was probably the 8th episode, because I feel like it was just so much fun to literally dress up with all your friends, kind of like how the camp episodes felt like we were literally at camp with our best friends. But there was something about like dressing up, and we would be running through the rain to get to lunch in these beautiful gowns. And I mean, on screen, it was so much fun to film because there was so much humor in it, and there were so many characters. It was like everyone coming together to go to this big event together. But then even off screen, we were just having so much fun. And I mean, it was coming to an end, filming was coming to an end, but we were all super comfortable with each other, and we still had like 2 or 3 more weeks together. So it was just really fun. Overall, we just were having a blast. And we did have multiple dance parties, and that just automatically puts it at the top of the list.
I think episode 6 definitely has a special place in my heart, but one of my favorite episodes to film was actually the camp ones, because it was like almost just like going to summer camp with your friends, because I think there were a lot of cast those few weeks, and we got to do school together and just pretty much like spend every minute together, and it was so fun to like really spend those last few like weeks together, like pretty much just always being together. And yeah, that was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, like Mama said, I think we each have kind of an episode that'll stay close to our hearts. That episode for me is episode 4, because Marianne finally finds her voice and she's able to come out of her shell, and she doesn't stand up just for herself but for the transgender girl that she's babysitting that's being misgendered in the hospital. Which, by the way, when I read that script, chills went through my body. I felt so honored. But I think my favorite episode, I honestly love filming all of them, but if I had to choose one, the camp episodes, I think I'm going to go lean towards that as well. It was really cool to see Marianne be a leader in her own way while she was directing the musical, and seeing things that she's really, really passionate about. And the talk with Logan about you don't need to be bossy, or like you don't need to be a boss like this, but you can be a boss like Marianne. And I think that could resonate with a lot of viewers and people watching the show, because you don't need to be bossy in one way. We're all bosses in our different ways. And I think it was really important to have that in. And it was really just fun being on set with all of you girls. And like Sophie said, it was like camp with your best friends.
I think, yeah, the episode that was really awesome to film was episode 3, because you kind of saw why Stacey like was being suspicious and like hiding all of this stuff, and like why she cares so much about her friendships with these girls, and why she didn't tell people about her diabetes, because she was afraid that she was going to lose them like she did in New York. And it was kind of really cool to see how it brought them together so much more than before. And like from that point on, all of the friendships with the girls were super tight, and like they just blossomed. And also Boy Crazy Stacey was so much fun to film, because that was my favorite BSC book when I was reading them. Like I don't know what it was about that storyline. I just absolutely loved it. And I thought it was really sweet that you could see Stacey kind of like growing out of that part of herself that was super boy crazy and like going after these boys that were so much older than her, and you kind of like, you really saw her grow as a person, and I thought that was just a really awesome lesson to be learned. Sochi?
Well, for me, sorry, you're really lagging there for a minute. For me, what? Because I've been watching the BSC over and over, and probably my favorite one to watch has to be Boy Crazy Stacey. There's just so much to make fun of, and it's like an ongoing thing where I'm just like, oh, there it is again. And so that is probably like my favorite one to watch. But my favorite one to film has to be both of the camp episodes, just because it was a change of like scenery for us instead of being at the soundstage or being in the same neighborhood. So I'd probably say that one was pretty nice.
All of them were super fun to film, to be honest. Yeah, it's really.
It is. It's hard to pick one.
I concur with that statement.
For sure. I definitely have those feelings when working on the books as well, where it's like, oh, I get to leave Stony Brook and draw something like that's not a desk chair. All right, so as an elder person, I have to ask, it's a legal obligation. Had you used landline phones before this?
I had never used, actually, I had used my first experience with a landline, the fanciness, was a plastic pink landline in preschool so that my friends and I could call each other from across the classroom. And we couldn't hear each other, so sometimes we would have to shout because it wasn't a working landline. That was my first experience. And then I always thought, I just really like vintage items and like that kind of thing. I think it's really cool to like learn about past eras. So I would always play with those. I have no idea what they're called, but those phones that you would have to spin to the numbers.
Rotary, yes.
So I was just very excited that we got to work with a phone that, first of all, looked as cool as it did, but second of all, was like not just a regular cell phone. I mean, obviously we had cell phones because it was a modernized thing, but it was just really exciting. Even though I'd never actually worked with a landline before, I got to get some experience.
Had a landline in our house in my mom's office, but we took that out because we turned that into my sister's room. But I had that like growing up, and also I go vintage shopping a lot with my mom. So when I was younger, sometimes we would go and I would just obsess over the pastel like landline phones. I was like, please, can we get it? I really want to put it in the office. Like it would look so cool. And she's like, no, because they're like pretty expensive because they're vintage now. But I think they're the coolest things ever. I love them.
Okay. Don't you go? You have a really good story.
Go for it.
Well, my entire life, I've actually had one of those landlines that are like this, and you like pull it out, and then you have to like, so I've kind of had that my entire life, and it does work. So, but we usually just get like random calls like, are you willing to sell your house? So
yeah. I was waiting for Soj to tell us about the landline because it looks so cool always. She'll bring it up on FaceTime and she'll just play with it, and I'm always fangirling over it. But I have a landline in my kitchen as well. It isn't as fancy or as cool looking as the one in the BSC, but I do have one and I do have experience with it.
Nice.
I actually have a pretty similar story to Sophie. In preschool, we had like the landline with like, it's like the toy one. It has like eyeballs on it.
Yes, exactly.
And it would like ding once like you finish spinning it. That was kind of like my first experience. It wasn't working. It was like all made out of plastic, but yeah, it was still very cool to me.
And house, anytime my sister and I would go over, we would like immediately run upstairs and pull it out of the like cabinet. And so fun.
That's adorable. Yeah, I feel like I grew up with those, memorized my friends' phone numbers, don't have to do that anymore, but I still dream of getting the specific Garfield themed landline. Like that seems very right.
That is amazing.
Just his entire body. So I think we're going to move on to audience Q&A. which I'm very excited about. Let's see. So the first question from Nettie Constant is directed at me, but I'd love to open this up to all of you as well. Who was your role model growing up? And for me personally, like I have a bunch of those, but we'll go ahead and say my wonderful, beautiful parents. My folks met in Thailand many years, before they had me, fell in love, and mom like lifted up her entire life from the country to come here and raise us here, which I always just like cherish and admire so much. Like they both worked really hard, and I try to like bring that into my everyday life still. But how about you? Like who inspired you?
I will have to say my parents as well. They were always very encouraging of like everything I do. They're always they don't really care about like my grades. They're always like, as long as you try your best, it's okay. And they have always like put like their kids first, and it's so inspiring to me, and I love them both so much. And they were definitely my role models growing up.
Yeah, I come from a family of extremely just strong women in general. So there are just so many people to look up to. I mean, as far as I can think back, everyone on both sides of my family, all the women have always chosen like bold and strong career choices and done really ambitious things, especially for their time. So all of them are my role models. And because even my oldest sister, she is an engineer, and she's like in her 20s learning how to like save the world. And it's just so cool to see people being so ambitious, especially as a young woman, to see people following their dreams and not letting anything necessarily get in their way. So I think that was always such an inspiration to me, not necessarily like, oh, I have to live up to my family standards, but I have all these people backing me that I have always been like, dream big, go for it and do whatever you want. And I was like, I think I'm going to be an actor. And they supported me, and I've gotten as far as I can. And I think it's really important to have your family having your back and just always supporting you through everything. But in addition to my family, is it okay if I say Miss Frizzle from the series? Because she was just so funky and crazy and adventurous. And I always admired how ambitious she was with her fashion statements. And I mean, the earrings on that woman, she had like lizard earrings, and she had a pet lizard too, which was awesome. And I don't know, just the creativity and imagination of that show really just always like stuck with me, and I've always tried to live up to the funkiness of that. So I don't know, I've just always had a lot of inspirations around me, and acting wise it's always been Jennifer Aniston, because she's so unproblematic and just like true to herself and an amazing actress. So just a lot of people inspiring you can really take you very far.
For me, it was definitely my mom. But yeah, I like really looked up to my mom. I'm like realizing that right now. I've like truly looked up to my mom a lot, like my entire life. She's been like the only person besides Selena Gomez, just because she was the only like Latina actress that was even popular, that everyone liked. So I kind of like, it was just my mom and Selena Gomez.
I think for me, it was definitely my mom and my sister as well. I'm sure all of us look up to our siblings and our parents a lot, just because they've been super supportive from the very start of everything, not even just with acting, but my sister, I'm really close in age with her. I'm 23 months apart, so I've always been super tight with her, just relationship-wise. And I really looked up to her just because she kind of paves her own paths. She doesn't like go the easy route and do what other people do. She goes with whatever she wants to do. And that's really admirable. I think that's really awesome. And she's been there for me through everything, and she gives pretty good advice. And my mom, I look up to her a lot as well, because she's just a super creative and spunky person, and she doesn't change herself for anybody. Like with friendships, if they don't like who she is, then she's not friends with them. Like she doesn't try to change herself to accommodate them. She just is unapologetically herself, and I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, so just like everyone else, I look up to my parents. I look up to my mom a lot. I mean, she's a single mom. She raised me and my sister. My dad's there, and he's very involved, but still, I just thought it was so amazing of all that she's accomplished as this strong woman, and seeing her and my sister and myself going through all of these challenges and obstacles, but still remaining like the Baker girls is what we call each other. And yeah, I think that's really awesome. That's what I have to say. Oh, and my grandma. They're pretty awesome too.
My entire heart is so full. Yeah, let's see. So we have a question from Facebook. Which episode was the funniest to film? Any fun stories?
I really liked the funniest. Okay, the first episode, I got to work on a lot of physical comedy. So like when Marianne runs in and she like sees Logan and then she runs out, that was one of my favorite things to do. I had never been experienced in that, but it was just so much fun. But I also really liked Stacey's episode, Boy Crazy Stacey. I feel like there were so many comedic moments in that just made me laugh so much.
Oh my God, yeah. Boy Crazy Stacey, same as me. Like that was when I got to first work with physical comedy, like tripping in front of the lifeguard to get his attention and just like falling head over heels for this grown-up man. Like that was just so funny to play because I'd never done anything like that. And also just having like Malia by my side and getting to see Stacey and Marianne connect, like that was so much fun. And both of us had a lot of comedy in that episode.
Was someone else going to talk? I couldn't tell.
Go for it.
Okay, so the funniest episode is that's hard because there were all moments where we were just cracking up behind the scenes and just trying so hard to get through a scene. Like, Malia, I love you, but that was not a run, that was a shuffle.
I know. You and my family make fun of me so much for that. Oh my God.
It's just like tears would be coming to our eyes trying not to laugh over every little detail, but I think it might have had to been either the first episode because we were all like getting to know each other and it was all just so exciting, or as you can tell, I really like the wedding episode, but just like the Richard and Sharon moments. How do they not have a whole spin-off show? Those people are the funniest people on the planet, and just being there and watching them do their awkward little thing is just the funniest thing ever. So probably, once again, the wedding episode.
For me, it was probably, oh gosh, it was probably Dawn and the Impossible 3, just because I got to, be with Sharon, Jessica Easton, the lady who plays my mom, and I got to spend a lot of time with her, and she is so funny, and so we had a lot of time to bond together, and of course we had to wear a bunch of sweaters because it was supposed to be cold, and it was very hot, and Malia and I had to be in it's the scene where we were in the grocery store and we bump into Marianne and her dad. And that scene was just so funny and it was so hot. There was just so many elements to that one scene that made it just so, it was just so funny. Just because it was hot, we have, just really amazing comedians. And then, of course, we have to do it over and over and over again.
Stale pita chips.
Oh my gosh, this first snack thing kills me every time.
It's so stale.
I don't know. One thing I'll always remember is when Sophie, she was eating M&Ms and they were that was just the funniest thing ever. It was all of the weird food things for me, because one time Malia and I had to take a bite of our pizza, but we also had lines afterwards, so we took chipmunk bites out of it. Anyway, and also just walking in my shoes in the camp episode, the burgundy. Okay, I don't know how I didn't fall face first into the grass, but yeah.
No, it's a talent.
Yes, I was about to say that is a talent right there. I was waiting for you to sink down into mud. I really thought we were going to experience a lot more quicksand than we did in the mountains. but I really was waiting for you to just sink with those heels into some mud.
Those like 5-inch heels.
Everything was just so fun to film. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, with your 5-inch platforms, when you were first getting used to those, like in the first,
Yeah.
coming out of a trailer, and I would literally have to like hold onto her arms so that she didn't fall.
The fluffy slides. I would
You know,
always.
all of your shoes though, all of your shoes are like so amazing, but some of, like, I can't even, like, I just look at those and I'm like, no, I'm gonna stick to my van.
Oh my gosh, Sam. No, I can do nothing. It's a miracle that I just move at all. So here's a question from Facebook. What is one goal you have for yourselves?
One? Okay. You guys know.
I think the main thing that comes to mind for me is just being able to work with some incredible directors and actresses that I look up to, some really strong women. I really, really look up to Greta Gerwig. I think she's amazing. I also love Saoirse Ronan and Elle Fanning and like some awesome actresses that I've loved forever. So that would be a dream come true to work with them. And also, I've thought about it, and being able to work on the BSC, there were incredible, strong, empowering women on the show that were directors and writers and producers. And I was like, that's something that I could do when I get older. Like, I can become more than just an actress being on screen. I can actually be behind the scenes creating the projects. And so that's definitely a goal of mine in the future, to be more behind the scenes, like working as a director or a producer or a writer or something like that. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly what Shay said. I also look up to Greta Gerwig and Saoirse Ronan, so pretty much that. But another one of my goals is to be able to speak on the issues that I really care about over like so many people in person too. That would be really fun. Although it makes me so nervous at times, it's just, I love the the little hype of it. And I think being able to be in front of like hundreds of people and talking about the issues that I care about, and them all listening, and being in a room full of really important voices and really important people today and currently and in the past, like Viola Davis. One day I'll meet her. But those things, yeah.
A goal for myself personally is to just like, I don't want to say do whatever I want because that's so vague, but I mean, I've always been the kind of person that's like, not like YOLO, I guess. Like, we literally only have our one life. I mean, as far as I know. And I just want to fill it with things that make me happy and things that I want to do. So everyone always asks me, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my approach was always like, what do I want to be right now? So I mean, that's how I became an actor. I just decided that I wanted to do something right now, and I wanted to make a difference in the world. And I wanted to just not only do what makes me happy, but maybe bring a smile to other people's faces. And just like reading comments and things that people say about the show, and having kids come up to me and be like, wow, I loved you so much. It's so cool that I know you, like all my brother's baseball fields, just sitting there on the bleachers. And that's not why I did it originally. I just did it because I loved it. But it is just so cool seeing people be inspired by you and bringing smiles to other people's faces. And I guess that's just my number one goal, to just make people happy, because that's all I want to do.
I like almost have to agree. I think is to really inspire others. And for me, I'm like such a perfectionist. I think it comes from my dance, but just to really like be myself and to have fun too. And like working on this show was just so much fun, and it brought so much like love and like support and like new opportunities into all of our lives. And it's so crazy that because I wanted to inspire people, just already seeing people like email, like even like the emails that we'll get from like fans being like, thank you so much for like being this for me. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, I'm only like 13, and I think all of us have very strong voices, and like have just like, especially having like the platforms that we kind of have now, are able to inspire others and inspire change as well.
Well, Ditto to all of you. You all had amazing answers, and I second all that. But my goal currently is just to survive 2020.
Yeah.
I have to agree with that one.
It has been a year.
Oh,
Oh man.
Not even in there yet. Not even in there yet.
crazy.
Okay, let's see. I think we have enough time for one or two more. So Momona, you touched on this briefly, but does it surprise you with how wide of an audience you reach? Your role models, as this question says, to girls your age and younger, while also affecting people in their 40s because they read the books when they were young. What is it like touching the hearts of this wide variety of people, including grown-ups? Is that something that's ever on your mind?
It's
24/7.
Yeah.
Like my mind is just blown by the fact that people even like know I exist and that I'm like achieving what I've always said that I wanted to do and bringing something to life that like my mom and my aunts and my grandma even like grew up with or showed their children. And it was like such a part of my childhood. And there's just something so timeless about the Babysitters Club that just like everyone loves it no matter how old you are. And it's just crazy to even think of the fact, and it's so overwhelming that like we really are inspiring people. And the fact that I just got called a role model, it's just so crazy to me because it's just like all I've ever wanted to do. So it's insane. Honestly, it's so cool.
I think it's incredible that we've all been given this platform to speak about stuff that's really important to us. And also just like beyond the Babysitters Club, I think it's really cool that later on in life, like maybe we'll even grow more than just this and we'll be able to touch upon other issues and reach other people. And it's like, I'm literally speechless when I talk about it because it's just absolutely incredible. And I still can't really believe that this is happening because it's just felt like such a dream for so long. And it's weird to have that be coming true. And it's just amazing. And I'm super, super grateful for all of it.
I just like remember like last year all of us were like talking and we're like, we're in the Babysitters Club. This is absolutely insane. And like I had like random moments on set when I was just like, guys, this is happening.
All the time.
Yeah. We were in the middle of a movie theater and Momo just turned to us and goes, we're in a Netflix show. And we were like, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I think we were watching like, I can't remember, but it's so insane to see how much I think has happened within a year even, and like within just a few months. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree with what all of you said. I honestly don't think I've processed it because if I did, I think I would collapse and then be sent into a hospital because I would be continuously saying, I'm in a Netflix show. This is so crazy. Like, I've done this. But I think it's so amazing to especially go through all these new changes and all these new experiences with my best friends who are all young females who are going through this as well in this industry and in this world. And like Soch said, surviving 2020, it's a crazy time right now. So to be doing all of that on top of new experiences is crazy to even think about. And it's like Shay said, I'm completely speechless when I talk about it. It's so incredible. I remember I saw a few comments saying, you inspired me to wear my hair out and wear my hair natural. That made me cry. A lot. And I think just it's so incredible being able to inspire people to do things that you are doing and for their passions and what they want to do as well.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of hard for me just because when they first put out who the cast was, they just put a photo out. They didn't, put a trailer out yet. But they just put photos out and a lot of people were really, really, really mad that I wasn't blonde hair with blue eyes, which really upset me because I was like, well, you haven't even seen what my acting, you haven't even seen the story. And it like really broke my heart because they were so upset that I didn't look like what they had hoped. And I just like in my head, I had to keep reminding myself that this is a new version and they haven't seen it yet, and I can't like get sad about it, even though I did end up getting like sad. I just had to remind myself that it's they don't know yet. They don't know yet. So I can't like hold them, I can't like just use my thumbs and go, oh, you don't even know. Which was like really hard for me. So that was probably an obstacle. But the second that the show came out, people were actually really supportive and they had changed their minds. And I was like, yes, that is what I wanted. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. And my heart literally exploded with my heart was just so happy for myself because I was like, people are recognizing it, and people who I would even get DMs saying, I see myself on the screen now. Like I never, everywhere else, I don't see anyone that looks like me. And there you are, you look exactly like me. And it like it just literally makes my heart glow so much. And up to this day, I still get those. And it's just, it's so.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because with what Soshi was saying, representation is so important and you cannot be what you cannot see. And there was just so many great articles that said like, I needed a Black Marianne when I grew up. And I was like, oh, I'm that Marianne. Oh my gosh. Because I feel like Black girls are often portrayed in a negative way. And Marianne being Marianne, the shy, sweet, caring, sensitive person that she is a whole new era and a whole new genre that we don't see Black girls just growing and being and growing through the challenges that normal kids do. And I think that was just so amazing and so grateful for everything.
You're making me emotional. This is so
It's so true. And also a beautiful note to end on. I am sincerely just so happy that everybody has all of you now out there representing them, being the amazing, incredible, inspirational, hardworking people you are. I know that I and everybody else am so excited to see everything else you do, like hopefully also a season 2. But this has been so much fun and I'm so glad we had a chance to talk. I am now obligated to remind you that we are here courtesy of Barnes & Noble, who do sell all of the Babysitters Club books, including Kristy's great idea, and Logan Likes Marianne, coming out on September 1st, and colored by Braden Lamb. Like, I am so sincerely excited about this entire book and cannot wait for all of you to read it. But again, thank you so much for spending the time to talk with me today, and I'm so excited for everything you get up to after this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for having us. This is amazing.
It's been a real pleasure. All right. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. My rings are like clinking.